Charlie, congratulations, a brand new role and title for you here with the Sharks, but you've been with the organization a very long time. We'll get to the current stuff in a second. First off, how did you get with the Sharks?
Yeah, it's my 13th year, which is it's a wild thought. But I started in Worcester, Roy Sommer, the legend Roy, my first job. Stayed there for 2 years, came out here with the CUDA the 15-16 year. Slowly morphed into the front office after that, but started the original days in Worcester.
You were a video coach for the Cowboy.
I was, yeah, the Cowboy. He is the Cowboy for sure, and it was awesome because we were further away out there, so it was just kind of us. And the office we had in Worcester was like, we were like right on top of each other. Yeah. So he was the perfect first guy to work for. Loved him.
So from the coaching ranks to the front office ranks, what was that transition like? And what have the last dozen or so years been like working in this organization and now working towards this new title?
Yeah, sure. I think as you get older, things start to kind of make sense and you start to figure, why'd that happen? Why'd this happen? And I think I've realized now that I've got a pretty analytical mind, I think. When I got into the coaching side, I thought that's what I wanted to do. But as you know, my parents were teachers. I grew up at a school. Learning was kind of the bedrock of everything. And every day it was, what'd you learn today at school? What'd you learn today at hockey or baseball, what have you? And a lot of the adults that I looked up to as a kid were teachers and coaches. So between that and then having this sort of competitive, I played hockey, I loved hockey. I think this whole time I've had a much more big picture approach that now sort of has become my focus. And truthfully, the best part about it with the Sharks so far has been that they've allowed me to be in like every room. I've had roles in coaching, scouting, player development, now in the front office, and being in all those rooms with all those different personalities and people, you start to learn the sensitivities of all those rooms and how they operate. And even more fortunately, I've been, part of coaching staffs when we're going after a cup. I've been part of coaching staffs when we weren't as good. Mm-hmm. Been a part of the scouting group when we were picking first overall, when we weren't picking first overall. So it's provided this really beneficial landscape for myself personally to learn from and then draw these experiences as I'm moving forward a bit.
So Director of Hockey Operations, congratulations on that.
Thank you, yeah.
What does that job actually entail? In my mind, there's a lot of different things that are possibilities, but what does the job actually look like for you?
Sure. I think first and foremost, it's putting the action into Mike's vision. That's where my head kind of, that's where I spend most of my time thinking, is that vision coming to life. And really it's the strategic thinking across the departments, the objectives and the strategy we're using to execute on those objectives in scouting, in player development, player acquisition, player evaluation, the different avenues that we work in. And on top of that, I think I spend most of my time in this role sort of looking at the information we're using, spending a lot of time in understanding, how do we blend this modern information stream with the more traditional modes of information gathering like scouting. AI is the big buzzword.
Are we using AI here?
We're starting. We've had a couple really interesting projects. I'll be the first one to admit, I think I refer to it as assistive intelligence more than artificial. And I'm sure that's been said. I've probably read it somewhere. I've probably heard it before. But I think, working with scouts and coaches all the time, you realize, you pick up on sort of that hard-earned experience they have that took years of scouting, years of coaching to come up with the way they view things, and you never discredit that.
Right.
But we have this nice little tool here that can build on top of that. And honestly, hopefully, at some point along the conversation, challenge some of these long-held beliefs that everyone has in a productive way. And that's what we do a really good job of. And I think what I'm most proud of so far is that we've incorporated that in a really, productive way to get buy-in and people understand it, not beating anyone over the head with it or force-feeding it.
I mean, and it makes sense, assistive intelligence, because it confirms or denies maybe what you're thinking. It's not the default thing that you have to follow. Right. It just kind of, it's another idea. It's another voice in the room.
The metaphor I like to think of is like if we're in our conference room going over something, we have 8 or 9 people in there, and then this other person's coming to the room and is giving their insight, and you manage it the same way. I'm sort of sitting on top of that all the time. What are we bringing in? Where are we getting it? I'm a big believer in the quality of the information, not necessarily the quantity. I think there's a bit of a push to just consume all this data and information as much as possible. And my dad always used to tell me knowledge is not understanding. So I've certainly just subscribed to that in this role. I spend a lot of time making sure that we're using quality information and we're getting those deeper understandings rather than just compiling and compiling and compiling. And, you know, on top of that, I monitor our decision-making process a lot of the time and sort of help design systems and ways to make decisions, and then looking at those decisions and did we learn from past outcomes, what frameworks did we use there, and just keeping tabs on the way we're thinking through things. Because the league evolves, the game evolves, and how we stay aligned through that is crucial. So that's a key word for me, is that alignment, and staying aligned in strategy throughout our different departments.
So you're saying that there's a lot of work that goes on behind the scenes of signing, trading, drafting, releasing a player. Yeah, none of this is on a whim. I guess that's what I want to point out here with this whole chat is you guys are going so deep, layers beyond layers of how to look at things before you actually do it, or learning from things in retrospect.
100%. Nothing happens quickly. Yeah. I mean, the game, things do move, and you have to be agile and all that. But we spend a lot of time dissecting every piece of information and trying to understand our approach to this decision. And AJ and Dylan, who sort of make up the think tank, as we affectionately call it, super talented, big time self-starters. They're certainly always kind of driving the bus behind the scenes, making sure that everything that we need is there to dive into. And they have a great technical skill set where they can do a lot of the heavy lifting with the technical components of things, coding and all the things that I know nothing about. They're fantastic with that, but two young up and comers for sure.
So I know you have friends in the industry, and you probably talk about some specifics or maybe in general detail, but how similar or different are the Sharks at running the hockey operations as compared to any other NHL teams? Do you think generally everybody's the same, or do you think that maybe you're different, or how different? How would you describe that?
It's a good question. I think, and you have people at different teams, and I have buddies, guys that I played with across the league. I think there's definitely that copycatness.
We've been saying that in the media forever. We want to be big and strong. We want to be small and fast. We want to be all these different things, because whoever wins the cup that year, the next year, everybody says, "Well, that's how we all do it, right?"
That's the easy way to do it, right? And there's totally some of that. What I would say, what we do a little differently is we observe what's going on. Certainly take it all in, have conversations about it. But at the end of the day, it goes back to Mike's vision, what Mike wants to accomplish, and how are we best doing that. And I think that keeps us positioned in a way that we continue to work a little uniquely. And just to give an example, I kind of frame it as data discipline. We're more disciplined in our approach to the information than I would say I've heard other teams are, in terms of how they sort of projects they jump into. And not to say they're right or wrong, we're a little more methodical or patient on that side of things.
So this is kind of a leading and a loaded question. We're obviously all pretty excited about the future of what this franchise might turn out to be, the direction it's headed right now. What's the one part of it for you that makes you go, all right, I feel pretty confident that we're in good shape, we've made the right moves? What puts you to bed easy at night?
I think we've executed on the things that we set out to do these first 3 years, in terms of getting the cap sheet in the place we needed it, getting the prospects in here that we wanted to get in. I think we made the most out of these last 3 years since Mike took over, and that sort of turns into this excitement, which I think starts coming along as the identity of what we're trying to build here. We'll start seeing now. We've had different reasons to be excited the last couple of years, the last year and a half, but I think really now the team that we're all hoping for, that's coming to be proud of, we'll start to see what that's going to look like. I think people will be able to pick up on it, what we're trying to do.
And I'm just thinking about your job and title and role. Is it more about personnel and getting the right people in the right spot, or is it also even including the strategy of what a coaching staff might implement? How deep does hockey operations go?
And that that's the crux of the whole thing, is that it has to be completely aligned top to bottom.
Right.
And even on the business side, being aligned there. I think the one thing that we have that's pretty palpable is that everyone wants this to go a certain way, and everyone's doing sort of what it takes in their positions to do that. But the alignment within hockey ops is top to bottom. Like it's, Mike's vision's this. What are we doing in pro scouting for that to happen? What are we doing in amateur scouting for that to happen? What are we doing at the coaching level? What systems are we using? Are we matching those personnel? All those sorts of conversations are constantly happening. And I think that's where I sort of play center field and make sure that those conversations and those processes are all funneling that way.
Two more things. It's kind of the late part of the summer. We're getting ready for the season. If I were to walk into a meeting of the hockey operations staff, what would I see? Who would I see in that meeting? Are they short meetings? Are they casual? Are they formal? Is there a PowerPoint? What are those meetings like?
Yeah, it's funny to think about because
you see it all the time, and I never get to see it. I'm just wondering.
Yeah. No, it's we have different we have some micro groups that attack certain things. The think tank's always going, and we call it the think tank. That's sort of where the information flow happens. It's become a popular spot for people to hang out into. And I think more than anything else, I remember reading in there's a book, The Cubs Way, about Theo Epstein when he took over the Cubs, and
big baseball guy right here, by the way.
somewhat. But when he was with the Sox, maybe we go back.
Big Red Sox guy, by the way.
It came out eventually. They would go down to spring training, and they called it like the house they rented. I might have it wrong. They call it the frat house, but basically, that's where they spent all waking hours talking about baseball, all the R&D, all the ideas you're throwing at the wall. And I thought that really resonated with me. So maybe subconsciously, that's what we've sort of turned the think tank into. But the think tank becomes sort of the idea hub. People come with questions, where's this project at? I want to look at this. And it all sort of flows from there. So that's a central hub, I would say. So if you came in on any given day, you could come to the tank and you would see some stuff going on. Other than that, depending on the calendar, really. So if we're in trade deadline, that's a certain group that's meeting most of the day. If we're at the draft, it's that group. But certainly sort of matches where we're at in the year.
All right, last thing deals with urgency. People I talk to in the community, maybe if they don't watch on a regular basis, are the Sharks going to be good again? I can safely kind of say now, yes, that is going to happen. The educated fans, they ask the better question.
Sure.
When is that going to happen?
Yep.
So I'm going to put that on you, but I know there's no specific answer. How do you just see urgency and a timeline, and what is the measure of where you want to be by a certain time? How does all of that look for you?
Yeah. I'm always having that conversation. Yeah.
Nobody knows the answer.
No,
so it's kind of like it's like a touch and feel. How do you feel about like that?
It's easier for me to say than some others, but because I'm sort of in tune to all these processes we have going on, right? So I have all these mini benchmarks or checkpoints of where I want to get to and when that I'm constantly keeping tabs on, and I'm always watching. How far away are we from this one? How far away from that one? And the goalposts move a lot. The targets always move, but I think most importantly, it's this methodical momentum, checking off these. Like to use the word again, these checkpoints along the way that we're on the right track. Yeah. And I try to stay more process oriented. I'd like to say I care less about the result, but we're obviously in a results driven business. Yep. But if you lose sight of the process and the goals that you have set at different points along the way, then you're not going to like the result anyway.
Well, you and I have both seen the good days, and yes. I can't wait to get back to a lot more of those. Charlie, congratulations on the summer, everything else going on, and obviously the promotion too.
Appreciate it. Thank you very much. Right. Thanks for having me.